Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to 168 Hours, your weekly roundup of the top local stories. I'm Abdullah Ahil, your host for the evening. The Minister of Education, Dr. Ismail Shafiu, announces that a significant campaign will be launched next year to equip teachers with essential artificial intelligence or AI skills. The initiative was revealed during the opening ceremony of the Principals Conference, where Minister Dr. Shafiu emphasized the Ministry of Education's commitment to enhancing both the health and well-being along the capacity of educators. This move is seen as a crucial step in bolstering the skills of teachers across the nation. The minister underscored the direct link between technically competent teachers and the development of intellectual youth. He explained that a nation that fosters continuous learning, particularly among its young people, is the surest path to progress. The minister warned without such an emphasis, graduates might struggle to find productive career paths upon completing their education. To achieve this vision, the ministry is also undertaking curriculum revisions, where Minister Dr. Shafiu confirmed that mapping for these changes is complete, with significant content overhaul expected to commence next year. The overarching goal, he reiterated, is to cultivate students who possess a love for Islam and their country, aligning with President Dr. Muhammad Muiz's priority of developing minds, fostering critical thinking, and nurturing patriotic citizens. He added, the education system, therefore, is being recalibrated to produce an intellectual and productive generation. Vice President Hussein Mohammad Latif says that the government is undertaking a fundamental reorientation of the Maldivian education system, urging it to move beyond the transfer of information and instead cultivate wisdom, responsibility, and values rooted in Islam. At the opening of the seminar on Islamic leadership and integration on knowledge held at the Islamic University of Maldives, or IUM, Vice President Latif affirmed the government's commitment to education reform and human capital development. He said that building a knowledge-based and value-driven society is central to the nation's progress. The Vice President announced that the government is pursuing a major strategic objective to restructure the national educational framework so that it is more deeply grounded in Islamic knowledge and wisdom, while ensuring that it remains competitive on the international stage. He described the development of an educational system structured on Islamic principles yet delivered in a manner that meets global standards as the foremost priority for the country. In building human capital across Islamic nations, he said the highest emphasis must be placed upon the foundations of Islam. The three-day seminar, inaugurated by Vice President Latif, brings together the Islamic University of Maldives, the International Islamic University of Malaysia, or IIUM, and the International Institute of Islamic Thought, or IIIT. He acknowledged the significant contributions of IIUM and IIIT in disseminating knowledge across the Islamic world and in shaping communities grounded in Islamic fundamentals, noting that the Maldives is making progress in this area. Over its three-day duration, the seminar will feature workshops led by technical experts on economics, business, and human resource development, all grounded in Islamic fundamentals. The IUM anticipates that this intensive program will prepare participants to introduce meaningful and beneficial changes to Maldivian society. The government pledges its full support to strengthening the nation's accounting sector, with the Ministry of Finance and Planning, Musa Zamir, declaring that trust remains the indispensable foundation of the country's financial system. Opening the Maldives Accountants Forum 2025, the largest gathering of its kind in the country, Minister Zamir highlighted the sweeping changes reshaping the financial landscape. The minister underscored the far-reaching impact of accurate and transparent financial reporting, describing it as essential to the functioning of the economy. He argues that reliability provides the framework upon which banks, investors, and governments alike can operate with certainty. Minister Zamir also recognized the Institute of Chartered Accountants of the Maldives, or CA Maldives, stressing that the body functions as more than a regulator. He described it as an institution safeguarding the integrity and trust underpinning the financial sector. Its ongoing efforts to elevate audit quality and ethical standards, he said, reinforce the very foundation of the country's financial system. Addressing the challenges of compliance and risk assessment, the minister cautioned that the responsibility of upholding accounting and reporting standards cannot rest with a single institution. He urged collaboration across government and industry, calling for joint efforts to strengthen the sector. He concluded by assuring participants that the government stands ready to provide all necessary assistance to advance the accounting profession, pledging comprehensive support to accountants as they expand their role in national development. The Maldives Accountants Forum, an annual event organized by CA Maldives, brings together approximately 300 participants to deliberate on the nation's most pressing financial governance challenges. Held on the 11th and 12th of October at the Maldives National University, or MNU Auditorium, the forum convenes a diverse roster of financial and business experts alongside key decision-makers. Discussions focus on institutional challenges in strengthening governance and accountability while exploring practical solutions. The agenda spans a wide range of high-stakes issues critical to the nation's financial health and modernization. These include strengthening the internal audit function, addressing liquidity and fiscal management, and reinforcing corporate governance. The transition of government financial accounts to an accrual basis is also under review. Minister of Agriculture and Animal Welfare, Dr. Mariam Maria, announces a significant initiative aimed at bolstering the economic prosperity of local farmers with a focus on reviving the cultivation and utilization of two historically and nutritionally rich crops, coconut palms and moringa. In a social media post, Minister Dr. Maria highlighted the immense yet underutilized economic potential inherent in these traditional staples. The minister emphasized that these crops, once integral to the daily lives and sustenance of ancestors, have seen a decline in production and widespread use over time. She explained the Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Welfare is spearheading efforts to reintroduce these crops into the agricultural landscape, not only for their health benefits but also for their significant economic advantages. According to the minister, moringa in particular is lauded for its rich content of essential vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants, yet knowledge about its widespread application appears to have diminished. She added the ministry aims to rectify this by increasing awareness and promoting its diverse uses. Beyond nutritional value, the initiative seeks to unlock a stream of economic opportunities. From the versatile coconut palm, a wide array of products, including traditional foods and beverages, honey, fibers for bags, and ropes, can be manufactured domestically. She explained similarly, moringa's potential extends to the production of tea, powder, oil, and even skincare products, creating new avenues for local entrepreneurship and employment. To facilitate this revival, the ministry has announced the recruitment of a consultant to spearhead coconut and moringa cultivation projects. Minister Dr. Maria expressed the government's commitment to promoting these products and fostering sustainable economic activities, asserting that this endeavor will leverage the invaluable skills, resources, and ingenuity inherited from ancestral practices to develop the agricultural sector. President Dr. Mohamed Muiz announces a sweeping recalibration of national priorities, declaring that the cultivation of a society grounded in reverence for the Holy Quran constitutes the Maldives' foremost development imperative.
Addressing the award ceremony of the 37th National Holy Quran Recitation Competition, the President asserted that moral and religious advancement must supersede material progress. He said the administration has formally designated the Quran Recitation Competition as a top national priority, a decision intended to strengthen religious affairs and facilitate progress in that domain. This commitment was reflected in the awarding of substantial prizes to students recognized in this year's competition. President Morsi described the initiative as a significant beginning in fostering a Quran-loving society. Calling for a collective shift in educational and institutional focus, the president urged parents, schools, government bodies, and private organizations to prioritize the upbringing of children who recite the Quran with precision, melody, and reverence. He advocated for the development of a generation that not only seeks to recite the Quran but regards its study as a source of pride. He drew a philosophical distinction between physical infrastructure and authentic societal progress, arguing that religious mandates must form the foundation of national stability. The president linked national peace and prosperity directly to religious observance, warning that neglecting divinely mandated priorities would undermine both. He stressed that the nation's stability depends on adherence to spiritual obligations. He also sought to embed this moral framework within the national ethos of competition, stating that Islam encourages striving in virtuous deeds. Concluding his address, the president acknowledged that national transformation must begin at the individual level. He said genuine change requires internal development of thought, philosophy, and action.
The Fahidiri Ulung Corporation, or FTC, announces that agreements with the recipients of 4,000 social housing units developed under its housing project will be terminated and apartments repossessed if the apartments are rented out in violation of the agreement.
The announcement was made on social media by Hamdan Shakil, the managing director of FTC, amid reports that some recipients have listed their social housing flats for rent. The 4,000 housing units developed by FTC are currently being handed over following the completion of finishing works. So far, the FTC has handed over flats to 78 individuals. However, several of the units have already been advertised for rent at exorbitant rates. 3-bedroom apartments are being advertised on social media for $1,620, more than double the government-subsidized rent of $745 for the same unit. The agreement between flat recipients and the FTC prohibit the units from being rented out. FTC had said it will take stern action against such violations, noting that allowing individuals to profit from subsidized housing undermines the purpose of the scheme and deprives those in need of affordable homes. Meanwhile, the Minister of Construction, Housing and Infrastructure, Dr. Abdullah Muttalib, has also confirmed that the government is taking necessary steps to cancel the agreements of the flats allocated under social housing projects and repossess the apartments in similar cases where the flats have been rented out against the agreement. In a post shared on social media, the minister noted that the properties allocated under the social housing projects have been developed using public funds and leased at subsidized rates. He reiterated that the government will not tolerate the rental of social housing properties at inflated prices or their use of the properties for purposes other than residential occupancy by the residents.
Senior officials from the Maldives and the United Kingdom meet in Male preparing for next month's United Nations Climate Summit, signaling the island nation's intent to expand its role in global environmental negotiations.
The consultation was convened ahead of the 2025 United Nations Climate Change Conference, which will take place in Brazil from 10th to 21st November. The meeting brought together Thorg Ibrahim, the Maldivian Minister of Tourism and Environment, and Nicholas David Lowe, the British High Commissioner to the Maldives. At the center of the talks was the Maldives' effort to strengthen its influence and participation in international climate action. The COP summit, recognized as the world's largest forum on environmental issues, is viewed by Male as a critical platform for advancing the concerns of small island states. The discussions ranged from broad climate challenges to specific collaborative initiatives between the two countries, as well as matters of particular urgency to the Maldives. Officials underscored the government's commitment to international programs aimed at mitigating the harmful effects of climate change. According to the ministry, the exchange also allowed both sides to share perspectives on projects designed to preserve and sustain the Maldives' natural resources. In reaffirming their partnership, the two governments noted the importance of joint efforts to address climate change and strengthen environmental resilience. According to the Environment Ministry, the consultations mark an important step in expanding the Maldives' role in global climate negotiations, while reinforcing the close partnership between the Maldives and the UK. The ministry added that the talks reflect the shared priority both nations place on environmental cooperation and their mutual commitment to sustainable development.
The Maldives records a substantial increase in revenue from foreign investment registration fees, coinciding with a comprehensive overhaul of its investment legislation and renewed efforts to attract targeted international capital.
Data released by the Maldives Inland Revenue Authority (MIRA) show that the state collected $84,758.37 in foreign investment registration fees by the end of September, an increase of $39,922.12 compared with the same period last year, when revenue totaled $44,831.20. This rise reflects a corresponding increase in the number of foreign investments registered. Under the prevailing administrative fee structure, which sets the registration fee at $5,000 per investment, MIRA statistics confirmed that 15 foreign investments have been recorded to date, generating $75,918 in fees. The growth aligns with policy measures introduced by the administration of President Dr. Mohamed Muiz to position the country as a competitive and secure destination for foreign capital. Central to this strategy was the ratification of a revised Foreign Investment Act, replacing legislation previously regarded as outdated and misaligned and contemporary economic priorities. The updated law introduces elaborated restrictions designed to safeguard domestic economic interest and promote national capacity building. Several sectors have been reserved exclusively for Maldivian entities, including wholesale and retail trade, logistics, general sea transport services, bunkering operations, construction projects valued below $15 million, and real estate developments under $100 million. To attract high-value capital, the government has also announced a residency by investment program. The scheme will offer residency visas to individuals whose investments are deemed to deliver substantial benefit to the Maldivian economy. Government officials anticipate that the combined effect of regulatory reform and strategic incentives will continue to drive foreign capital inflows in the months ahead, reinforcing the country's standing as a destination of choice for international investment.
Parliament authorizes a record $8.70 million budget for the Auditor General's office for the coming year, the largest allocation in the institution's history, and a measure that lawmakers say reflects the government's commitment to strengthening financial oversight.
The appropriation, passed unanimously by all 51 members present at the sitting, represents a $1.3 million increase over the current year's budget. The additional funding is intended to address staffing shortages and rising personnel costs, while also supporting infrastructure and investment projects. The Auditor General's office submits its budget separately from the government's main fiscal plan. In its presentation to the Public Accounts Committee, the office highlighted the absence of senior auditors in 7 of its 22 departments, describing the shortfall as critical to resolve. The committee was also informed that personnel costs had risen after audit fund employees were moved to the National Pay Framework in September, an adjustment that required an additional $590,000 for salaries. Following its review, the Public Accounts Committee endorsed the full request. The budget is divided into 2 categories: $6.02 million for recurrent expenditure and fixed assets, and $2.69 million for public sector investment program projects. MP Ahmad Salim, who serves as Deputy Chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee and represents Ada Fushi, characterized the approval as historically significant, noting that it reflects the government's emphasis on equipping the Auditor General's office to conduct comprehensive audits of state institutions. He also reported that construction of the new audit office building is expected to conclude by March next year, a development anticipated to ease long-standing space constraints. With the necessary funding and infrastructure secured, MP Salim said the office is now positioned to carry out its mandate without impediment, whether financial or logistical. He also expressed confidence that future audit reports will be more comprehensive as a result. The approved allocation will now be incorporated into the Ministry of Finance and Planning's projected state budget for the upcoming year.
The Minister of Economic Development and Trade, Mohammed Saeed, rejects claims by the previous administration that Maldivian fish exports to the United Kingdom benefited from tariff reductions secured through bilateral negotiations. He said the reported decrease was not the result of government-to-government talks.
Minister Saeed made the remarks in Parliament during a session devoted to questions from lawmakers, where he addressed the status of trade relations with the UK and clarified the duties currently applied to Maldivian fish exports. The exchange was prompted by South Galar lawmaker Mikhail Ahmad Nasim, who suggested that discussions under the former government had successfully led to a reduction in tariffs. Minister Said dismissed that account, stating that while the previous administration had claimed that UK reduced duties on Maldivian fish exports, there was no evidence that the exchange had been secured as a negotiated concession. He then outlined the tariff structure in detail. Attention also turned to the proposed free trade agreement between the Maldives and the UK. MP Mikhail noted that it had been reported the agreement would take effect this year. Minister Said categorically denied that such an implementation was scheduled and asked the lawmaker to provide the basis for the claim. He also provided historical context, confirming that discussions on an FTA were first initiated in 2016, coinciding with the UK's withdrawal from the European Union. The initial letter concerning the talks, he recalled, was signed on 16 October 2016 by then Economic Minister, a position he himself held at that time. Looking ahead, Minister Said said the administration of President Dr. Mohamed Moizu has prioritized efforts to secure tariff reductions from other trading partners. He underscored that the government's focus is on achieving tariff adjustments that deliver the greatest benefit to the Maldives.
President Dr. Mohamed Muiz identifies agricultural expansion as a central priority of his administration, declaring that national food self-sufficiency is essential to reducing reliance on imports, lowering associated costs, and promoting healthier consumption.
The announcement came in a social media post marking Farmers' Day, where the president extended his good wishes to all those engaged in strengthening the agricultural sector. President Moizu has placed particular emphasis on elevating agriculture to the status of a recognized industry. His government has established a ministry dedicated exclusively to agricultural affairs, a move intended to give the sector institutional weight and direction. The ministry is extending direct support to farmers, including training, tools, and other resources. The administration is also prioritizing the development of infrastructure and facilities to improve the domestic marketing of agricultural products, aiming to create a more resilient supply chain. The president's strategy is anchored by a flagship initiative, a large-scale agricultural project in Uturu Tilafaru. Government officials expect the project to reduce the nation's dependence on external food sources and to lower national expenditure on imports. The administration has also stressed that self-sufficiency will ensure citizens have access to food items certified as healthy, linking the policy to both economic and public health outcomes. President Moizu framed his vision within the country's agricultural heritage, noting that our ancestors had long demonstrated the fertility of the nation's soil. He expressed hope that agriculture could be expanded to a level capable of ensuring comprehensive food security. Furthermore, in an address marking Farmers' Day, Dr. Maria Maria, the Minister of Agriculture and Animal Welfare, urged greater youth participation in agriculture, warning that the sector's survival depends on its successful transfer to future generations. Although the Maldivian economy is anchored by its marine resources, Minister Maria stressed that agriculture remains indispensable to the nation's future. She described it as central to achieving food security and ensuring sustainable economic development, adding that advancing the sector must be treated as a national priority. Minister Maria acknowledged the geographical constraints that hinder agricultural growth, including limited land availability and the salinity of subsurface water tables. The Agriculture Ministry is pursuing wide-ranging initiatives to diversify and strengthen the sector. One of its priorities is the establishment of an agricultural laboratory to provide essential analysis and research capacity. Efforts to bolster food security also include the distribution of plants to households, beginning with the northern atolls. Minister Maria appealed to the public to allocate land on every island as a collective contribution to food security, urging national cooperation with the ministry in this endeavor. Concluding her address, Minister Maria reflected on the broader purpose of National Farmers' Day, calling for unity and shared responsibility. She expressed confidence that every Maldivian, from farmers to resorts and businesses, has a role to play in supporting the nation's agricultural sector.
That's all we have for now. Thank you for watching 168 Hours. See you next time.